This is the Extra Point Podcast. During this podcast, we will dive deeper into our Sunday teaching and share practical next steps for your faith journey. Now, let's kick off the Extra Point.
Hello and welcome to the Extra Point Podcast. Make sure you subscribe and share with a friend. Today we are talking Rise and Fall, Part 2. This is our series where we're looking into 2 Samuel and the rise and fall of kingship of David and the situations, how they relate to Scripture and how they can relate to us today. My name's Anna. I'm the youth pastor here at Southridge Church. Joining us is Scott Beha, our senior pastor. And Scott, we're just going to take a look into this past weekend. What were some main takeaways and areas where you'd like to take a deeper dive into the teaching?
Yeah, so one of the things I want to remind everyone is that David wanted to do something nice for Saul's family. And sometimes we can read passages like this in the Bible. And really what I hope you're able to see in this is yes, you got the point of what I was saying, that you're welcome at the table. But more than that, I hope that this helps you learn how to read and study the Bible. So when you come to a passage like David wanting to do something nice for, honestly, someone that he should have killed, because in a human sense, we know that Mephibosheth, being the son of Jonathan would have been the rightful next king of Israel after Saul, which means Mephibosheth has a rightful claim to David's throne in a human sense. We know that when it came to Israel, God was in charge. But in a human sense, so it should have been his enemy. It should have been someone that he killed, but he shows this kindness too. And sometimes we can come to these Bible passages, and this is why I want you to think more, when you read the Bible, think more gospel, less morality. I know that sounds wild, but some people just look at the Bible and they go, oh, it's just a book of how to treat people or how to, it's like, well, there's some stuff in there, sure, that you can draw some conclusions, but I think that there are some people that if your whole idea of Christianity is that it just makes you a more moral person, you might come to this and go, all right, so David wants to show kindness to his enemy. That's what he does. And so my takeaway is if I want to be like David, I will go and send my enemy a gift card to Chili's.
Right.
And I will be kind to them to show them the love of God because they don't, and you go, that's not really the point of the passage. Because when you come to a passage like this, and really I can show you this in a couple of other passages, maybe we'll do that here in just a second. You are not David. You're not David. You're not, we're not looking to David as an example and going, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be like. Because the point is that you're Mephibosheth. You're the one that everyone looks down upon. You're the enemy. You're the one that's, doesn't have it all together, doesn't know how to walk right. And you're in need of mercy and grace from the king. Until, you'll never become, you might be able to force yourself into being a more moral person by reading the Bible in that way, but I promise you'll never get as far in your character as if you start seeing yourself properly. Yeah. And you go, oh, no, I'm not David. I am Mephibosheth. And the more that I realize that I'm Mephibosheth and that the better David, Jesus, still chose to allow me to come into his family and to sit at his table, the more I embrace that humility of my own brokenness, that is actually what creates long-term character change instead of short-term behavior modification, which the church has kind of specialized in for so long. You go to a story I remember growing up all the time, and you grew up in church, so you probably, how many times did you hear the story of the Good Samaritan?
Right.
And you go, what's the point of the Good Samaritan? It's well, we're supposed to be kind to our enemies, and we're supposed to go above and beyond for people that are not like us. And you go, really? You don't see that you are the man in the ditch?
Right.
You are the one, you are the one that needs help. You're not the helper. You are the one that needs help. And the more deeply you can embrace your identity as the man in the ditch or as Mephibosheth or whoever it is that is, you are not the savior in these stories. And the sooner that you begin to understand that, the quicker you'll be able to look and go, oh, okay, well, we're not just learning behavior modification. God is trying to humble me to see myself properly, to see him as he sees me, both as a sinner and as the one that's in need of help, but also the one that's welcomed in.
Right.
Despite all of that, and as you begin to get a hold of, I really and truly do not belong here.
Yeah.
I do not belong here, and yet I've been welcomed in. Your loyalty to God in the way that you live your life is grown because of the love that you have. It's not like, well, here's a story about how I need to do better to be nice to people. It's like, no. This is a story about how you, without anything to offer God whatsoever, God looked at you and said, I want you to be part of my family. And he did everything that he did, just the way you could be part of his family and spend forever with him in his new heavens and new earth and the new creation. He did all of that, not because you just drip with awesome sauce. He didn't do it because you read your Bible. He didn't do it because you went to church. He didn't do it because you gave a big offering. He did it simply because that's who he is.
Right.
And it had nothing to do with you. And that humble position will actually drive your character farther than any sort of behavior modification ever will.
Yeah, I like looking at the scriptures through that lens of gospel. I think that is really important, because if we look at it in a way where maybe it was taught like it's a balance of your good acts versus your bad acts and etc., we can really miss the picture. And as we were discussing, it made me think of Jesus being the character of God in human form.
Yes.
What he showed in a moment where, someone of high power and affluence says, Jesus, like, what does this look like? Yeah. And Jesus says to them, imagine two people with a debt, and one is forgiven, the bigger debt. One has a lesser debt. Both are forgiven.
Yeah.
Who's going to be more grateful? And this person of affluence says, well, the one with the bigger debt. Jesus says, this is the kingdom. Like, this is what this looks like. It looks like the person who truly understands what they've been forgiven, they react and respond in a way that is different than what might seem like it makes sense to us.
Yeah. Well, and even on some level, like, I think, like, we could take this to go, how many times growing up in church or in church, and I've been guilty of saying it, I probably taught kids this when I was a youth pastor, I probably taught adults this while I've been a lead pastor, but like we go, like, the goal of the Christian life is to be like Jesus. And what I've come to understand over the past couple of years is, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Because you have to come to the humility to realize that you're not Jesus and you're never going to be Jesus.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do what Jesus did. That's why Jesus did what he did, because you can't. Like, do we grow in holiness? Yes, of course. Do the fruit of the Spirit come in our lives as the result? Yes, but you're not Jesus. And so I think sometimes we read these stories in the Bible and we're trying to be the hero. Yeah. And if you would just take the lower position, you would actually, it would change your heart to where the output would change so much. But again, when we focus on the and this was the problem that the Pharisees had in the first century. They focused so much on what they were doing, their hearts were not changed. This is what Jesus tells them. You're whitewashed tombs. On the outside, everything looks good. On the inside, you're dead, like completely dead. And because they were so focused on rule following, this moral message that they got from the law, they missed the heart of the law. And so they were they never realized that the whole reason why there was a system set up was because God wanted to come be with them. Right. And that wasn't humbling to them. They had that as a sense of pride, thinking that they could force God into right relationship with them by their rule following. Yeah. And it never worked. And so we see behavior modification doesn't work, even though that's been the discipleship model of the church for at least the whole time I've been alive. Yeah. And if we would go, what we need is to preach the gospel to ourselves every day. Yeah. I am a sinner. I have no idea why the God of the universe wants anything to do with me, but yet for some reason, he has chosen to welcome me into relationship with him, with all of my bruises, with all of my cuts, with all of my scars, with all of my baggage. He wants me to come and be a part of his family, and it makes no sense to me whatsoever. And the only thing that makes sense then is for me to write a blank check to God with my life and go, whatever you want. Yeah. Whatever you want. All the scars, all the bruises, all the times that I will make mistakes, but it's a yes, God, whatever you want. You want me to give sacrificially? I will give sacrificially. You want me to give time? I'll give time. You want me to treat this person this way? I'll do that. Not out of a sense of well, that's I have to follow a law,
Right.
but because you have treated me this way,
Yeah.
now I will, and because I've experienced that, now I can go and do likewise.
Yeah.
And that's such a different way of looking at the scriptures that I think leads to long-term transformation and not short-term. And also, this is the way that I hope we are discipling people in the church from birth all the way up, till they're senior citizens, is not, hey, I'm going to preach a sermon on, you pick your own sin or whatever, and then you're like, I'm going to preach on this sin. You go, you might be able to get them to feel bad about that sin and even change that sin for a week or so, but their heart is not going to be changed until they fully understand the gospel. And that's what 2 Samuel 9 does so beautiful, is it actually shows the complete picture.
Yeah.
And actually, it's one of my favorite pictures of the gospel.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
I know that this will, this isn't probably not the place to have a full-on theological discussion, but what David did by showing kindness to Mephibosheth, the reason why he did that was Hesed.
Right.
And the hallmark of Hesed is covenant loyalty.
Right.
And I will say this, and I'm sure someone will hear this, and because I don't have time to fully flesh this out, it's coming at some point, I promise, but now's not the time. If you want to know what Jesus was doing on the cross, before we go, he was paying for the sins of all the world, so he could take my place and I could take his place. I want to let you know what was happening on that cross was Hesed.
Yeah.
It was first and foremost God's covenant faithfulness. Does it forgive you of your sins? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Does it, all this stuff that you've been told? Yes. Are you made right with God? Yes. Did Jesus in some sense take your place? Yes.
Yeah.
But the first and foremost thing that took place on that cross was that God, from the beginning, had said that when you screw this up, I'll still be faithful to the covenant. The way I'll be faithful to the covenant is, instead of ripping you to shreds, I'll be the one that comes and does that. I will be the one that is faithful to that covenant, because I already know you're going to fail in it. And so, if we can, again, begin to see what took place there as God's covenant faithfulness, it drives us to a deeper level of understanding. I think shields us from some of the things that maybe skeptics say about Christianity as well.
Yeah.
But it was covenant faithfulness that drove David's decision here, which was a precursor to the cross of why did Jesus do what he did. It was covenant faithfulness. Yeah. Israel was had a covenant with God that blessing would come to the whole world through their faithfulness. But because they were always unfaithful, someone on behalf of Israel incarnate, if you would have to be faithful to that covenant for blessing to flow to the whole world, which is how we share in salvation and everything that we share in. It was covenant faithfulness first and foremost, which is not talked about very much in the church, because we prefer to talk about penal substitutionary atonement, where we go, I'm a sinner, Jesus took my sin, I get his righteousness, and then we take the writings of Paul and lay them over the whole scriptures rather than letting the rest of the scriptures interpret Paul. And that's how we come to that conclusion. And I think that it does a disservice to the overarching story that God's been telling from the beginning when we do that. I still think that if that's all that you know, I think that it'll be enough. It'll get you where you want to go. But there's such a beautiful story of God's faithfulness being told throughout the whole scriptures when we grab a hold of it. And this story is a beautiful picture that David did not do what he did because he was just a nice fellow. David didn't just do what he did because he's a loving guy. Yeah. He was the perfect picture in this sense of what God was doing in and through Jesus on the cross. He did it for Hesed. He did it for covenant faithfulness. Yeah. And so I find it to be very, very beautiful, because when it's about covenant faithfulness, it's not about you. It's not about how good you are. It's also not about how bad you are.
Right.
It's all about how amazingly faithful God is.
Yeah.
That's a different story.
I think it for sure takes us to a place where we can't find that kind of relationship or satisfaction in any other relationship. We can't find it in any other career path. We can't find it anywhere else. What God offers through that is just unmatched. And when we recognize it for what it is, it can satisfy us in a way that we've never experienced. And I pray for our friends who are joining us on Sundays and hearing these teachings online or listening to this podcast, that they do come to an understanding of what this actually is and can find that rich satisfaction. Because it's not for, I think one of the other situations that we often get into our heads is, man, okay, if this is a reflection of gospel, if this is a reflection of Christ, like one of the cool aspects is David, he seeks these remaining relatives now, and it's like not really, from my understanding, it's not really a time where you would do something like that, but he does it now. And it is something that continues for the remainder of Mephibosheth's life. Sorry about that, buddy. Phoebe is how I put him in my notes. But it continues throughout the rest of his life, and that's something that we find in receiving Christ as our King. We get to not just experience something in the future. So many times we hear, not only is, this atonement for my sins so that I can be with him forever when I die. It's not just for then, it's for now and forever. And that's something that I worry that many people miss on the now part.
It is. It's something I emphasize in my teaching, and there have been times over the last 10 years that people have come up to me and go, you're the first person I've ever heard talk about how my salvation doesn't just affect my eternity, but that like it affects right now. Like I'm not waiting on, and again, this is, I think, part of the problem with the way that the past, 50, 60 years have been taught in the church, maybe even longer, maybe the last 200 years, where we go, just follow these rules, and eventually you'll get to go to this place called heaven. You go, that's just not the story that's being told.
Right. Yep. It's not.
It's not the story. And that, again, I would like to think that that's one of the reasons why I ran from God till I was 23 years old, is that the story wasn't very compelling.
Yeah.
Because for me, I remember a friend of mine that actually goes to this church now. Both of us Christians, love Jesus, serving and everything. We were scoundrels together. And we had a conversation one day where we said, we're going to do that. Like, we believe this Christian thing. We're going to do it later, but right now we want to do what we want to do.
Right.
Because the story wasn't compelling enough to live in that moment, because we didn't realize, like, it's not just a story for, like, hey, make sure you get right with the Lord before you die.
On your deathbed. Right.
It was like, it wasn't told to us in a compelling enough way to go, no. Like, as a teenager, as a young person, as a early 20s, like, if you say yes to Jesus, this is going to rock your world in the best way possible.
Starting today.
Right now. Not just like, oh, now you have something when you die, but you're supposed to be miserable till you get there.
Yeah, right.
It was never that compelling of a story. And like, when you look at Mephibosheth, David gives him the inheritance that was actually his to begin with. Because everything that was Saul's was Mephibosheth's, but everything that was Saul's went to David when David came in. So it was his. And so he's returned everything that was meant to be his. And so think of this, Mephibosheth is living in Lodabar, which is a place of no pasture. It's like, as you study Lodabar, you go, it looks like it's a backwater town. Nobody wants to be from Lodabar. It's not a place of renown. It's not like one of those, ooh, we know you type cities. Like, no, it's like a dump. And he's hiding in a dump. He's probably fearful for his life because there's a new king and it's not his father or his grandfather, so he knows that his head's on the chopping block. Look at where he starts. And then he gets this inheritance, like he is rich, but not just when he dies. Like it happens now. Like David, acting on behalf of God, enriches his life right then. He went from like hiding to, I get to sit at the king's table. I get to eat what the king's sons get to eat. I get to be treated like his son. I now have purpose. I'm no longer in hiding. I get to be my realest self. I get to come and sit at the table, even though other people have told me that I'm worthless. I'm being treated like I'm something. Like it gives you all of that stuff, not just when you die.
Right.
Like Christianity is so much better than just what happens to you when you die.
Yeah.
It is a life right now that will change everything about you in the best possible way.
Yeah.
For the best possible reasons.
Yeah.
Like the churches that simply teach that we're just sitting around waiting on Jesus to come back so we can go to this faraway place called heaven are not very effective at reaching people in this current generation, because especially like I've been listening to these podcasts. I know you listen to Carrie Newhoff too, but the Gen Z revival that's going on right now is not because they're being taught a gospel about, well, you better hurry up and you better get right with the Lord so you can go to heaven when you die. That is not the gospel that they are signing up for.
Right.
They want to change this world.
Yeah.
And they go, and the best way to do it is the gospel of Jesus here and now.
Right.
Living it out, living out the repercussions of this gospel, not sitting around in some dusty old building waiting for them to die, then they can really start to live. It's like, no, that's not what this newer generation that is coming to faith really rapidly right now. It's not what they're signed up for. They want to see this world be different. They want to try to have answers for the problems that have plagued creation for so long.
Yeah.
And it's not just sit around and wait. Like Mephibosheth's life got better the minute he entered into relationship with David.
Right.
Right then. He didn't have to wait, and you do not have to wait.
Yeah.
You say yes to Jesus right now. You are not waiting on something into the future. Like you lay hold of all that God has for you.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Yep.
It's awesome.
It is the best. It's the coolest. Well, I'm thankful for this conversation. I'm thankful for where we're headed in Rise and Fall as we continue in the weeks ahead. I'm telling you, friends, if you're listening, watching, you won't want to miss it. Make sure you're tuning in, coming on Sundays at 9 and 11 here at Southridge Church, and we can't wait to see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to The Extra Point. Be sure to subscribe to the Southridge Church podcast and tune in every Wednesday for another episode of The Extra Point.